Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stu here from Spain Speaks with an update on the current situation here in Spain. Day 206 of the current health crisis, and today it's all about a couple more cities here in Spain with more than 100,000 people going into a lockdown situation as of this evening. Firstly, a big thanks to the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a small donation. You can see your name here. Thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. And thanks to people that bought merchandise over the last couple of days. Now, the big news today is that Donald Trump has managed to lick the coronavirus in a couple of days. I think he came out today telling people not to be scared of the virus. Here in Spain, we're not getting messages as uplifting as that one. And as I just mentioned, a couple more cities are going into a lockdown as of today. We can see here that León and Palencia, two cities in the north of Spain, in the autonomous community of Castilla y León, will be closed as of tonight, midnight. From midnight tonight, León and Palencia will join Madrid in closing down. The regional government has decided to apply these new restrictive measures for at least 14 days to stop the high rate of infections. In both municipalities, the incidence of cases exceeds 500 cases per 100,000 inhabitants. And according to the mayor of León, there are cities in our situation or worse that have not closed because their health system is stronger. So the mayor of León there highlighting possible weaknesses in their health system and saying that that is one of the reasons why they need to go into a lockdown as of today, as we said. And as we just saw, these two cities, León and Palencia, join other cities in the Madrid community that go into lockdown because of the new criteria put forward by the health ministry last week in cities that have more than 100,000 people. Now, with these two cities going into lockdown or confinement, it means that more than 5.2 million Spaniards are already suffering mobility restrictions. León and Palencia are confined because of the rise in infections, and experts warn that the perimeter closure is insufficient if it is not accompanied by social limitations within the municipality. So 5.2 million Spaniards now dealing with mobility restrictions, but they're not enough if social restrictions are not adhered to. Now, the pandemic in Spain is far from over, and we can see here that more than 30 cities are at high risk of coronavirus transmission. Of the 80 Spanish cities with more than 100,000 inhabitants or provincial capitals, 33 have a cumulative incidence in the last 14 days of more than 250 cases per 100,000 inhabitants, according to the information published by the autonomous communities. That threshold, which is half the number set by the Ministry of Health last week, is considered an indicator of high risk of transmission of the virus. So 30 Spanish cities considered a high risk for virus transmission. Now let's have a look at the map and graph of the health situation from El Confidencial newspaper. On the right, we can see the graph of the evolution of diagnosed cases and deaths on a 7-day average. And down below, we can see the data from the last 7 days. We have case numbers down 5.59% at 49,118. Hospitalizations are also down 1.09% at 5,814. And deaths are down 31.97% at 366 on previous data. And if we have a look at the map of Spain and the evolution of accumulated cases in the last 14 days per 100,000 inhabitants, we can see that numbers in Madrid are still quite high at 586.64 cases, although that number has come down in recent days. Navarra in the north of Spain is now the country's main hotspot with 684.03 cases. The Valencian community has dropped below 100 cases and now sits at 99.72 cases per 100,000. And the Canary Islands sit just above 100 at 103.65 cases per 100,000 inhabitants accumulated over the last 14 days. As we just saw, the numbers in Madrid seem to be improving. However, in Spain, all that glitters may not necessarily be gold. As we can see, the health ministry is voicing its doubts about the improving coronavirus data coming out of Madrid. Spain's health minister, Salvador Illa, and the director of the health ministry's coordination center for health alerts, Fernando Simon, last night questioned the improving coronavirus data coming from the Madrid region during one of their regular press conferences to offer an update on the pandemic. There are specific areas of Madrid that are improving and others that are not, explained Simon when questioned by journalists last night after having attended a meeting of the government's COVID-19 monitoring committee, which is chaired by Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez. I'm not going to get into any kind of public dispute with the Madrid region, added the health minister. If mobility needs to be further restricted, that is a decision that Madrid has to take. We have some doubts about the delay in notifications and the antigen tests, he continued. However, Madrid has come out today and responded to the doubts held by the central government, saying that doubting the data means questioning health personnel. The Minister of Justice of the Madrid community has stated that the situation is improving and has indicated that the data is that which is provided by health personnel. So tensions between the Madrid government and the central government looking set to continue for the time being at least. Now, we saw in a video a couple of weeks ago that the much anticipated tracking app called Radar COVID was available in some parts of Spain but not in others, and apparently that is still the case, as it still doesn't seem to be available in Madrid or Catalonia. We can see here that Madrid and Catalonia still have not activated the Radar COVID tracking app in the middle of the second wave of infections. While the Catalan government says that it has had technical problems to integrate it into its health systems, the Community of Madrid governed by Isabel Díaz Ayuso completed that process on September the 2nd, but has not reported when it will activate it for Madrid residents. So the government's tracking app seems to be having a little bit of trouble getting off the ground, at least in Madrid and Catalonia. Now, yesterday we talked about the complaints that restaurant owners are having with these new curfew or these new restrictions that have come into place in Madrid, and we can see here that 75,000 diners have cancelled in Madrid due to the restrictions. They have broken us. Before 9, nobody dines. The new limitations give the finishing touch to the restaurant sector, which has registered large losses during the weekend. So there we go, 75,000 restaurant cancellations in the last few days. And that could also be a new slogan for Spain: before 9, nobody dines. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from the last video. One here from Scent Lover. I feel that Spaniards may need to consider adapting to a more European time frame with earlier opening of businesses and earlier close time with dinner around 7 or 8 p.m. Yes, Scent Lover, thanks for the comment. There has been a push in recent times to adapt timetables in this country. Various governments have mentioned that they're going to try to change working times to make people leave work earlier, to try to get people to come onto a more European schedule. But it seems to be a very, very hard thing to do, because I think the timetables and the way of life here in Spain, it's a cultural thing and it's very hard to change. We just saw that new slogan, before 9, nobody dines, and basically that sums up the country. And it's true, not many people dine before 9 p.m, especially at weekends. It's more like 10 or 11, and anybody who's been in the country will know that to be fact. And one of the other characteristics here is that shops don't normally close until 8:30, normal shops that is, and then the big department stores on the Gran Via, for example, don't shut until 10. So that pushes everybody back, and it also means that there is a lot of activity on Spanish streets around 10, 10:30, 11 p.m. One here from Debbie. I can see why eating later in Spain makes sense, especially in the summer months. It's just too darned hot to eat in the early evening. Yeah, Debbie, thanks for the comment. That could be one of the reasons, the hot weather. But then again, the majority of places now have air conditioning, so the heat factor in restaurants is taken out of the equation. However, as I mentioned yesterday, Spain doesn't seem to be on the right time zone, and the sun sets in this country very, very late, which means that it's quite hot. And that could also be one of the reasons, especially if you're eating outside, that you don't want to be having dinner at 8 or 8:30 with the sun beaming down on you, which it tends to do in the months of July and August. One here from Winter Biker. Weddings, parties, everything, and Midnight Oil. 2 awesome Aussie bands I enjoyed from the 80s, both great in concert. Yeah, Winter, thanks for the comment. Those are a couple of good Aussie bands that you mentioned there: Weddings, Parties, Anything, and of course Midnight Oil. Famous groups, I think, from the 1980s, and very good in concerts. And that's one of the things that I miss here in Spain, is seeing good live music. There's not really a good live music Spain, at least in Madrid. There are a couple of places that have live music, but nothing like we have or had in Australia, at least before COVID-19 took over. But here in Madrid, that live music scene has nothing in common with the live music scene in Australia, for example. One here from Alan. Thanks, Stuart. I believe the figure is 20 per 100,000 before we don't have to quarantine for 14 days on return. Very worrying about how some are reacting to the health workers in the second wave. Yeah, Alan, thanks for the comment. I think that is the figure that was set by the British government, 20 cases per 100,000, in order not to have to go into quarantine when you return. And unfortunately, as we have seen, not many places in Spain with an incidence rate below 100 at the moment. I think we saw there just before that maybe Valencia is just below 100, but everywhere else in the country seems to be quite high, way above that 20 set by Boris Johnson and company. So unless there's some type of travel corridor agreed on by both governments, maybe one to the Canary Islands, Balearic Islands, Andalusia, maybe Benidorm, I can't see people coming to Spain from the UK and avoiding that quarantine on return, unfortunately. One here from Ivan. People are very friendly in Madrid, also with the virus. I think it is the most COVID-friendly city in Europe. Yeah, Ivan, thanks for the comment. You might be right. It might be the most COVID-friendly city in Europe because people in Madrid are very, very friendly. They love to hug, they love to kiss. Well, it's a Spanish characteristic and you see it all the time. Yesterday I had to go and pick up something for my son and there was a group of people there and they were all standing very close together, smoking cigarettes, masks down. They shook hands, they were giving each other hugs because they're friends, and that's what friends do in this country, and those are the natural instincts of people, and those habits are very, very hard to break, and that's probably why the virus is spreading so quickly in Madrid. One here from Dammit Janet. Many of these rules are designed to make honest non-rule breakers crazy, and it's working, in my humble opinion. Yeah, Janet, thanks for the comment, and you're right. Lots of people going crazy at the moment with all of these new rules and restrictions that we have in place, especially here in Madrid. What can we do? What can't we do? Am I going to get stopped? Do I need permission to travel? Where can I go? Those are the questions people are asking, and it is very, very confusing for a lot of people. And let's be honest, politicians do not make it easy for people to understand. And for people that don't like to break the rules, it can generate an extra layer of stress. One here from Claire. Apparently, La Junta de Andalucía are meant to be in discussions with the UK regards doing a 99% sure, quick and free tests in Malaga Airport for people coming in and out and getting quarantine lifted in an attempt to kickstart the tourist industry. Possibly they are doing the same with other countries. The Costa del Sol, especially Fuengirola, gets a massive influx of Finnish tourists. Also, La Junta is looking into providing insurance for medical care. Let's see how this pans out and if true. Glad your son recovering well. Yeah, Claire, thanks for the comment. Tourism is a massive industry for the Costa del Sol, especially these winter months. Those are the months where they love to get people down from the northern European countries. You mentioned the Finnish, Norwegians as well, Swedes, anybody from the north of Europe who's looking for a bit of sun, to be able to get outside, not have to wear a heavy coat, scarf, gloves, etc. The Costa del Sol is a fantastic place for that. Great to get out, have a game of golf, and that's what they're trying to get people to come back and do. But they're also trying to do it in the Canary Islands, they're trying to do it in Benidorm, they'll probably try and do it in other parts of Spain as well, because tourism, as I said, is very important for the country. And all of these quarantines that people have to do are killing the tourist industry in these places. So the governments are desperate to get people to come, and they'll do anything they can to convince people that their location is safe. One here from M. Belton. I like how the measures were announced in a Boletín Oficial. That's multiple pages long and written in the typical opaque Spanish legalese that plagues all official communications, and they wonder why no one knows the rules. Yeah, thanks for the comment. You're right. Everything needs to be published in the official state gazette, what they call here the Boletín Oficial del Estado. There's various ones in the country. I think the autonomous communities also have their version as well. And everything needs to be published in these gazettes in order for it to be legal. And it's in legalese. It's complicated. It's difficult to understand, but everything has to be done that way. It's how the country works. And in my opinion, everything should be made a little bit simpler and easier to understand. On that note, I'll start to wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give it a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.